What's up, everybody? Welcome to Wits End Podcast. I am your host, Devin Witt, alongside my co-host, Joe the Show.
What's up?
Oh man, this week I feel like we kind of had to come back into a topic that is near and dear to my heart.
What, drag queens?
Dang it! See, and this is crazy because you literally have no idea what I'm about to talk about.
I don't.
Unless you saw me going through the slide real quick. All right, I'll trust you.
Like me being smart aleck.
It is, I hate the fact that this trans topic is just so insane. But I feel like if I'm a Christian in today's world, this has to be one of the most pressing things that you have to think about almost on a daily basis, just because of how rampant the behavior has become. And kind of what I mean by that is, you know, thankfully I'm not in high school anymore, but even in Dewey, America, Dewey, Oklahoma, for crying out loud, you have a sect of trans kids growing up right here in small town America. And so, if I'm a Christian parent or just a Christian in general, you have to ask yourself, how do I combat a tough topic like this? And I know we've touched on it plenty of times uh, in topics leading up until this point, but can I honestly say that we've had like just a real sit down conversation, because there's multiple facets in it, but to me the main one has to be, how in the world are we going to support biological males being women over biological female rights? That's really what this conversation comes down to for me. And I think I have a really good symbolic picture of, what is hurting the trans movement in this situation? What's stopping biological males from being considered women? And I just want your thoughts on this.
It's a pretty good start.
For me, maybe it's the chest hair, but there's just, this is not normal, people, and I don't want this to become normal. I don't want people to think that it's normal for women to have gray salt and pepper beards. I mean, yours is bad enough to look at on a weekly basis, let alone in a dress.
That's probably what I'd look like too. It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad.
Okay. So that, do trans lives actually matter? That's really what this comes down to, because
That spin off something there.
I know.
Is being involved in more than one group? I don't know. Trans lives, do they matter? Yes, every life matters. I understand the whole premise of the Black Lives Matter to, all these. It's kind of the same. It's the same spin-off. Their lives matter.
Right.
Their opinions matter. It's freedom of speech. If they want to dress that way, I don't care. But I have several arguments. They're common sense arguments, and not that I'm sure they'll come up throughout this. So I'll let you go, because like I said, I don't know exactly where you're going with all this stuff. This is the first time I'm seeing it, so I don't know. And there's benefits and downsides. That the benefit is you're going to get a fresh take on it. So it just kind of depends on what answer you're looking for.
So what do I mean by, do trans lives matter? Clearly, every life matters. But we go into the same argument as
No.
Matter.
I don't agree with that statement. So let's get that right. Every life does not matter, and people will argue
as
that.
It can.
It does. But once you try to take mine,
yeah,
yours no longer is considered.
Yeah, and that's what I'm.
So let's get off that crap of everybody sitting there saying, because it stemmed from the BLM movement to this other stuff. Is once you start taking other people's lives and their livelihood and things into consideration. Yeah, there's a people that's going to disagree with my statement. There's a stronger community that's probably going to agree with my statement. You have taken and put yourself in a position where you've made your life not matter.
So I somewhat agree. Really, what it comes down to is whose life matters more. Is it everyone else's or your own? Mm-hmm. And why does this matter? Well, if I'm a typical black male, or now I guess you can throw trans people into this conversation as well. But what's the main question you have to ask yourself? Am I gonna live another day? I live in Chicago
No, they ain't
or New
freaking
York
fear
or
their life.
or
That's just
Baltimore, and
that's
I
a
live on the
government-
wrong side of town.
that's a government agenda they've pushed down because they shoot up a gay bar. Somebody shoots up a gay bar and stuff like that. But that is such a stupid, dumb to even think that way, to sit there and say, "Oh, their life's in jeopardy." On a race issue, I can see some sides of that, but we're not talking. That's not the topic today. We're talking about this LGBTQ stuff. So I'm gay. I'm in fear of my life and all this other stuff because there's school shootings or there's these mass shootings involved that too. Okay, fine. Play your card. So does that mean because there's a girl that went into a Christian school and shot up, little kids, that our kids are in fear? Yeah, maybe if that's a card you're going to play. Oh, let's dissect that down a little bit further, since you freaking make every gay this umbrella LGBTQ and everything else, and nobody even knows what it means anymore. So let's take that same example: school shooting, Christians. So Christians should be in fear now too for their life because there was a mass shooting of Christians, or Christians are martyred for what they believe, which are both facts that I've just stated. So should we live in fear of those things, like they're trying to portray they have to live in fear? No, that is the most dumbest excuse and example. That is a ploy to get people's attention of ignorant people that don't know any better.
Well, and which kind of goes into question number 2, which is, does being involved in more than one group actually hurt you? And what do I mean by that? Like one of the examples that come to my mind is being a part of the Gays for Palestine, but also being for Palestine freedom, because they don't go hand in hand.
Well, exactly. I think that's where it comes down to. The quick answer to that is just off hip shooting this thing. Your groups can be, you can be more 2, 3, 4, 5 different groups, but when they start crossing over and being hypocritical, which oftentimes they seem to be here, then yes, it is. Because I'll give you an example of that, because I'll probably say this again throughout the episode, since I kind of got a general idea what this topic is going to be about. Is you have drag queens. We're not targeting your kids. We're not targeting your kids. We're just okay. Then why in the world is it so important for you to go to public schools to read to them? Why are you targeting kids? See, there's hypocritical. We're not targeting your kids, but yet we got to go to schools to do this. See, I know it's not exactly two different things, but it is two different things. You're preaching two different things at the same time.
And I do agree with you, which is kind of what I'm saying. Like I can't say I've honestly put too much thought into this. Like, for instance, supporting Black Lives Matter and Trans Lives Matter. You're like, well, how can those possibly not intersect? And what I would say is that because what you're doing is you're replacing one group with another. And so there's nothing wrong with supporting, quote unquote, more than one group financially. But once we start talking about your physical involvements, at least this is the trend over the last decade, I feel like. It feels like you can't be in the two groups at the same time. Like, for instance, hey, I believe in women's rights, but then you're also supporting biological men being able to compete with biological females and also go to the same locker room as them.
It's like hypocritical.
You
this
can't
whole thing
do that.
is hypocritical.
You can't have both.
It's hypocritical. I'll give you another example. If I, being a white guy, by definition, go out and I blackface that, and paint myself up black, and it doesn't matter if I, represent correctly or not. It's wrong. You can't do that in today's society. So why do we think in today's society that it's okay for a man to dress up like a woman? Is that not discriminating or painting a bad picture of a woman? But yet we can't do that from black to white, but we can obviously do that from male to female.
Well, actually,
it's very hypocritical in how screwed up it is in how people look at this.
This is a pretty good example of what you're talking about, which is you literally have priests at a bar with alcohol in their hands. And on one hand, a person could make the argument of, well, there's really nothing actually wrong with this picture. But on the other hand, you have the keep yourself above reproach, do not cause others to stumble, etc., etc. Mm-hmm. So at the end of the day, in my mind, I kind of picture trans people and the fight that they're fighting in equivalence to priest drinking a beer at a bar expecting to save someone.
Yeah. Well,
So,
I mean that can be viewed several different ways. There's a sect of people that they're going to go to hell. They're not. Whatever. Yeah, I could sit here and biblically break that down too, in different things. Some pro, some con. Both ways. So I mean, it's people. It's how people view it and people's viewpoint of things. That's why this is such a big deal today, is because their viewpoint is skewed on reality.
well, and that's kind of, I guess, what I'm getting at is like I feel like for me, whenever I think about the trans situation, it feels a lot like college. And what do I mean by that? I grew up in a time period where college, college, college. That is how you get out of school and you find yourself a great job and you have a great career for a great company. And this is how you're going to make your money.
Yeah, how's that panning out for you?
Well, exactly. And that's kind of the point is like, okay, so you're told to believe this because this is what we're telling you to do. Okay, it's just the right thing to do. Just go to college, forget about the military, forget about trade school, et cetera, et cetera. So you do that, and then you come out 20 years later and you find out, oh, wait, college isn't exactly what it was cracked up to be. The promise that they were making does not hold up to the bill that they're handing me at the end of the day. As far as my value versus what I put into the investment. And I feel like it's the same thing whenever we're talking about trans people. We're all being told to accept this. This is the best way to run a society, et cetera, et cetera. And I feel like 20 years from now, we're going to take a look back and be like, oh, this is actually bullcrap, and we shouldn't have listened to these
we
people.
already seeing that. We didn't even have to. You don't have to look at history to repeat itself. We're already seeing that. The negative consequences of this, and I can go many different ways of where it stemmed from to what's causing it, but it's kind of the same thing. Here's what I think is going to happen. Just like the BLM stuff and black people in general, what had happened, they had a pretty big movement going on and had a lot of traction, but it got too much, and fortunately I think it got too much media coverage, and so it's silenced now. To a big level,
A huge
and it's just,
level.
well, the same thing. If you're seeing that, I'm only using that as an example to say this LGBTQ gay stuff and everybody coming out of the closet and being accepting, that was a big thing. But what you're starting to see, and they still have a lot of traction, don't get me wrong, but it's starting to die off media wise because this agenda has been pushed too hard, and there's been people that's bit back at it per se, but it got pushed a little bit too hard. And it became such everything, especially with Bud Light. That whole controversy thing came out, and it got so much media and attention that a lot of people just don't even care anymore. It's not that they don't care about the people. It's not that their lives don't matter. It's not that they're not even sensitive to the subject. They just don't care about it anymore because it was such in our face for such a period of time. Another big example of that that's more relevant to everybody in the United States, it kind of affected everybody regardless, was COVID. COVID was a thing that was a big deal, but it got so publicized and it got so overly exaggerated of different aspects of it that people just started kicking it to the side. They didn't care anymore. They're just like, we're not following these stupid rules. We're not wearing our masks anymore. We're not going to get vaccinated. We're not going to do this. We're not going to do that. And it wasn't because that they didn't feel initially that there was some threat here. It was just so in your face, and people saying, you're going to do this, you have to do this, and everybody was like, no, we're not. And so they stood up against it. And then the reality of it is what we found out after the fact, that it was, I believe truly that this was, it is deadly, but it wasn't as bad as what they made this out to be. And people started figuring that out, and they're just like, nah, we ain't playing this game. Same thing here. People, this was built up so big, they're just like, we're not playing this game no more.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you brought up Bud Light in this particular situation because for me, what does it come down to? Bud Light made a grave mistake, and kind of like what I was saying about 20 years from now, we're going to look back on this and be like, oh man, what were we thinking that you can just diagnose a mental illness and say that it's completely fine and everything's normal? The point of what I'm getting at here is that Bud Light made a grave mistake by, hey, you know what, we're going to step away from the frat guy culture and environment, and we're going to step into what we think is the politically correct stance to take with our core audience of our consumer market. As a result, the people who they thought that they would be speaking to responded in a very negative way.
Right.
And I feel like we're seeing that now. That's why you aren't seeing so much of the LGBT agenda is because at the end of the day, the people don't want that. I mean, I hate to say it, but when you raise a society for the last 200 or 300 years based on Christian nuclear family type beliefs, you're not just going to get rid of that overnight, and you shouldn't. And the reason why I say that is we're always going to have sexually provocative individuals in the world, in the sense of like, they swing both ways. They only like dudes, or she only likes girls, or whatever. You're always going to have a spectrum of what people enjoy sexually. That doesn't mean that we should just now open it up and say, tell every child that, hey, you should be thinking about liking both sides of the field. Do you see what I'm saying? And so I kind of, I guess what I feel like is what the government is trying to do is what Bud Light did, and which is when you try to go with the status quo, which right now LGBT's in, oh my gosh, you're so brave for coming out. You're a hero for being trans, whatever. By going along with the status quo, what you don't realize is that a ton of people actually are completely against what you're doing, and it's just they haven't woken up or used their voice yet to show you in the same way they have with Bud Light.
Right. Well, I mean, it's inevitable. You're inescapable today. You look at, most of the streaming networks, stuff like that, they've got stuff on there. And even if your kids aren't watching, I mean, they're seeing these things, these little small 30-minute, commercials. Well, RuPaul's one of them. You see that on Paramount, I believe. It's one of the channels I stream. Either way, you see these advertisements, and you're trying to watch this family-friendly show, and then there's stuff there that's appropriate for kids. But what's not appropriate is that 30-second, 45-second commercial about that. The kids don't need to see that crap.
Yep.
And so the media does kind of have a say in dictating on what, because, I mean, what do you can't just fast forward that part, I mean, it's just the way they're designed. You're forced to, I guess you turn it off to some degree. You're pretty much forced to watch the rest of that episode, whatever show you're watching. So you got media influence and this big hype. Everybody wants to get on this hype. I genuinely believe that, what percentage, I don't know, but I genuinely believe when this had this bigger moment in popularity, I think there was a lot of people probably confused on things, whatever, but I think they were just coming out, I'm gay, to just get on that attention. We see that all the time. We see that, we have people that, and I go backwards, back into the BLM stuff. There's people that, hey, I'm sorry, nothing against black people at all, but they don't care about you. They're only on this because they're getting popularity. They're getting a little bit of an interview. They're, whatever. Social media stardom. So they're saying, oh, I'm all for this black life. They don't live that every day. I'm telling you, they're just, I understand it's a numbers game and all this other thing, but just like the BLM stuff, and you look at, this stuff is, start looking at misuse of funds and, and fraud and a bunch of other things. I think that there's a fair amount of that stuff involved here. I personally don't think that, I mean, be very clear on it. I don't have a problem with people that then drag and do all that stuff. My problem of it is when you're forcing it down on everybody else. See, what you do in your privacy of your own home, okay, fine, but just another example is let's do reverse psychology. Let's reverse this table here. Turn the tables per se. When the straight people say, "We're straight. We're proud to be straight," it's almost a sin to do that. You can't do that. Then why is it okay for you to get out there and flaunt, that I'm gay and everybody, and we have to accept it? No, I don't have to accept it. That's my God-given right in the country that we live in. I don't have to accept that. I can hate you, and I can do that legally. I don't have to support that crap. I can stand up. I can say whatever I want about it. I can call you all the bad names in the book. Sure, they're going to censor me on social media because they favor that crap. However, I still, within my legal rights, can say and do as I please. Can't hurt nobody, but You know what I'm saying? In regards to that, that's the country we live in. But again, you turn that table, you're pretty well censored whenever you stand up. Straight's the only way, and get the gays out. You start using verbiage like that, and hopefully, YouTube and Facebook and our streaming networks here are going to hopefully look at that in context, what I just said. But,
they won't.
That's the thing. You can't say that type of stuff and be a straight person and get away with it. You're hated on. It's basically almost like hate speech almost.
Well, it's not cool, and that's kind of part of the issues that, unfortunately, the moment social media became popular, so did a lot of unpopular ideas. And, what do I mean by that? I personally don't believe that you could have a have you seen the slapping competition where I mean, dudes are like
Oh yeah, I've
standing
seen it.
straight up
you
and
know,
then they get
men, women.
smacked
Yeah.
beyond hard in the face and they
Yeah.
fall over, passed out.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have that before the internet.
Yeah, and
There
I'm
isn't-
waiting, and I haven't seen it. And we're talking about the gay rights and women, men. The one thing I haven't seen in that yet is some 6'4", 300-400 pound dude smacking the crap out of about a 5'2" little girl. And I say little girl because there's women
as
that do
a
it.
trans person. Yeah,
You haven't seen that yet that I've
yeah.
seen. I'm not saying it hasn't happened, but I haven't seen that argument made in that. And there's probably a reason why.
Do you think they have? Do you think they're anti-LGBTQ? Against
Yeah,
smacking?
they'd have to be, because we're all created equal,
Yeah, okay.
and women
All
can do
right.
the same thing that guys
Yes.
can. I'll make my
Yeah.
stance on that real clear. That's a bunch of crap
Yeah, I
too.
know.
There's things women can do that guys can't, and vice versa. That's just the way we're designed, But that's not necessarily the prime example, but as an example, you're gonna get the crap knocked out of you, young lady, if you step in front of a big grown man like that. That's just facts.
Which
And then you start drawing these stupider accusations. Then where does that become like in society? This is what's so screwed up 50 years ago, maybe not even so far. And people's going, well, that's 50 years ago. We've moved on past that. Yeah, we have, but we haven't.
No.
Because it is still in society today. If a man hits a woman, regardless if that dude is 5'2" and 100 pounds soaking wet, and that woman's 300 pounds, whatever. If a dude hits a woman in today's society, it is still looked down upon.
heavily.
So don't quit. Oh, that's old way of thinking. We've moved past that. This is 2024. Yeah, you can say that, women, all you want until it happens to you, and you'd be the first ones in that courtroom saying it's a guy that hit me. I see that crap all the time. Now, I'm not saying it's okay. I still have that old school mentality too. You don't hit women. It's men too, but you don't be hitting women. But where we're at in society, so now where this line is blurred, because a guy can become a woman.
I know, man.
And so this line has got so blurred, and I take it back into what it's men have let women's rights just be demolished. And with that, women too, because women is a voice in society too, a very powerful voice women have, and they're letting this happen. They're being, I'm not saying all women are, but they're being blind that their own voice, the things that men and women have fought and died for in this country, your voice is being stripped away by the LGBT community right out from underneath you, and you're so ignorant you don't even see it.
Well, and that's actually what I was about to say. Is in my opinion, just being straight up honest. No, I don't think women have a powerful voice in America, and they've proven that time after time by supporting the trans women's rights movement. Because if you're that blind and that naive, and ultimately that dumb, that you're going to openly support biological males having the same rights and privileges as you, then it begs the question of, why are we letting any woman in leadership to begin with?
It can be debated. I think women have strong roles in leadership. I think there's aspects of it that, in my opinion, this is my opinion. There's people who's going to disagree with it. I know the hate comments are going to come after this, but when it comes to, like military aspects, women are, I think they're just genetically, not fit for that. And that's just my opinion. And I know it sounds bad. There's a proper way to put that into words, but you have men that have defended this country for years and have to make decisions to take people's lives. And, I don't think that a woman, most generally, can make that decision to do that. It's a hard decision to make for anybody. But I think you look back at history, it's been men leaders, it's not been women, and that's fine. Women are exceptionally well, and I know, again, it's an old way of thinking, but women are exceptionally well, I believe, with children, taking care of the home front, and stuff like that. And that, again, you look back at history, that's what they did, and men were off fighting at wars, defending the country. I'm not necessarily saying that women can't be in the military, shouldn't be in the military. That's not what I'm saying. I just think that there's roles in government. I think that there's roles in businesses that are better suited for men, and I also think there's other ones that are better suited for women. Right. My boss, and I'm not going to call names, but my boss is a woman, and she does a very fine job at what she does. I have no issues. I work for a woman. I'm okay with that. So I think there's also this male pride thing, that comes into fact too. I mean, it's so stupid, the arguments
What I
that people make in regard to those things.
What I would say is, because I feel like what this really comes down to, based on what you're saying, is there not a part of you that it's hard to kind of deal with toxic femininity?
But
is it not worse than toxic masculinity in the sense of, look, at the end of the day, we all know men are just naturally better leaders than women. We're naturally better gifted whenever it comes to business and logic and reason. So as a result,
I don't know. I don't know that I'd agree with that.
And and you can. That's fine.
Look
but
at this country.
History would prove you wrong.
History proves me right. Look at where we're at. It's led by men. Look at the president of the United States. The bottom line, he's still a man at the end of the day, or we would think he is. And look at where we're at. We look at some of our government leaders. Well, I'm trying to make a valid argument to what you're saying, and I'm not saying you're necessarily wrong. I do agree with some of those facts, but look at where we're at military wise. We're letting trans people. We're the laughing stock of the whole freaking world right now. And these decisions were made. Yes, there's women involved, but hey, these men are the one in leadership. So I don't, based
men
off
who want to
some
be
of
women. Let's make that clear.
Well, not all of them. These positions of power, are, I say, the higher up into this are men. And so I know on some of those aspects, I couldn't necessarily agree that,
but they're men who are comfortable with women leading them.
Well, they would have to be, obviously, because they got put in a position.
My straight up opinion, I think Tulsi Gabbard is a better leader than me. But at the end of the day, I think Tulsi Gabbard's an exception to the rule, not the standard.
Yeah, but we can't limit that possibility of that person being, holding that role or position based off sex or race.
It's not. It's about equal opportunities. So how I look at it
but
is,
equal opportunity in America don't exist anymore. You can get that fact straight too. It doesn't.
If Tulsi Gabbard wants to go through the same basic training that every man does, and she performs exceptionally well, then that's fine, and I'll give Tulsi Gabbard her credit. But on the other hand, if we're really going to now change the standards and lower it just because your body's not physically as adept as a man's.
Well, see, I think that's a different argument to some degree.
It's not, though, because what it really comes down to is, what does that tell you? Women aren't built to be leaders. There's always exceptions to the rule. In the same way you have very feminine men out there in the world, you also have very masculine females. And so I'm not saying that there can't be women leaders. But when we're talking about the majority, and I'm going to say over 70%, actually I'm going to go as far as to say 80% of women or more are not natural born leaders. Men are. And so what I'm getting at is that the moment as a society that you start letting women make the decisions, they're letting biological males take their place to have the same rights as them, even though they fought for years, decades to have these rights.
Yeah. Think about what you're saying, okay? Men, here's what you're basically saying. If I'm wrong, correct me, because I want to get this right. Men are basically better natural born leaders.
Yes.
And women are stepping up to these roles and doing, you know why?
Because
the men are failing.
Yeah.
Now, we look at leaders today. This is inarguable. It's inarguable. Let's look at this generation of what we would call men. I call them boys. You would call them men. They aren't leaders.
Yeah.
They couldn't lead a freaking duct of water. I mean, it's ridiculous that we even have to have this conversation in 2024. But the men that we look at today, and I'm saying the vast majority. I'm not just saying because they're a trans person or they're black or they're white or they're male or they're female. I'm looking at men in general over the age of 18. They're not leaders. They're not natural born leaders. If at best, they're natural born pussies. It's proven. It's proven across the board, and I'm sorry. I know it's trying to keep Christian base here, but I'm calling it how I see. I'm calling it how I see it. These are not men. They don't defend anything we're standing for.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that there's
video games.
I'm not saying there's some out there.
Yeah.
But the vast majority, they don't. Work ethic. That's something that we would look at. Years ago, that was something that was ingrained in men. You worked, you provided, you were the bread and butter of the home, the whole thing. I understand society. You about need two incomes. I get. I'm not. It's not my argument here. My argument is these men aren't taking leadership positions in anything. I seen that whenever you were freaking 18 years old. I seen it. It was so clear. You know, whenever I was going to school and stuff before, you got pregnant when you were in high school. It was and even before that, it was even worse. But you know, and now when you spill all your beans on it, you had a kid at a young age, and everybody's like, oh, congratulations. Like, what in the heck is wrong with you? That is how screwed up your mentality is. There is nothing good, you know, in general. I mean, yes, granddaughter and grandkids, yes, I get that, and all these other things, but there's nothing good that comes from just being pregnant or having a child, you know, when you're in freaking high school. It's not beneficial. It's not good.
And I see what you're saying.
And your society saying, it's okay. Congratulations. That's a great thing. Really? It takes a real freaking genius to stick this in there and out comes a baby. No congratulations to be due there.
And I agree with what you're saying. Like because there's an argument to be had there. It definitely makes you a better person if you allow it to. But it is by no means the best thing for your situation in general in 2024, which in my case would have been 2016. And why do I say that? Because there's a difference between being 17 years old and over half your class of other graduating people aren't finishing high school either because they're all going out to work, etc., or fighting a war, whatever. But in 2016, at that time, no, it's not a good thing to have a child. And for the most part, it doesn't make people stronger. It ruins families. It destroys relationships. And ultimately, the child suffers unless you have great parents who instill in the child who's having a child, no, you're going to be better. You're going to hold yourself to the higher
exactly,
standard.
And that's where the generation previous comes into play, because I swear by this and I'll stand by this. This generation today is screwed up because the generation prior to them, and I don't fit into that category because I am using you as an example. I was like, this is not my kid. You're taking care of. Oh well, I got to go to school and I'm 3 hours away. Good, you're not anymore. You're going to come back here because you're going to be a dad and you're going to freaking take care of this crap.
Yep.
You know, and holding your kids accountable, you actually make them do the things they need to do. Well, I'll just drop out. No, you're not dropping out of school. That card got played too. No, you're not. You're going to freaking finish the course that you were freaking on. Yep. You chose this. And the thing of it is, on the other side of this reality from my generation too, if you look at it correctly, there's many people, single parents or married couple, that's went to college full time, graduated successfully with having 1, 2 kids, maybe multiple kids. And I'm proof of that too. I went to college full time, held a job, graduated college with a 4.0 GPA, and had kids involved in the same time. But I had to make sacrifices. So, we've let my generation has caused this generation and have failed them. And now they sit back and complain. And I'm one of them. I sit here and complain about it. I do have a leg to stand on because I try to, fundamentally, morally, ethically make these decisions and point my kids in the right direction, not to be like everybody else. I don't want my kids to be like everybody else. I want my kids to be individuals. But today, that's not. They want them to blend in with the crowd. They want them to be like, oh, well, if you're gay, we'll just get on there and be gay, and we'll just accept that. I'm not trying to say talk your kid out of being. I'm not trying to tell you how to raise your kid.
Right.
But being accepting of the situation, being accepting of every little thing is not the best parenting technique or tool to use.
It's not. Well, but we see how that goes. Because, like, for instance, it kind of goes back into like what New York City and LA is kind of suffering from, which is the moment you start looking at criminals as anything other than criminals, bad things start to happen. Mm-hmm. And what do I mean by that? I'm not saying like I know one of my brothers is involved with the police quite a bit, and personally, I'm glad that he's not sitting in a jail cell today. However, I'm not going to dismiss the fact that he has very criminal tendencies. And as a result, he's higher probability to do more crime. So me, as just a citizen, removing my brother out of the situation, what I would say is, yeah, he messed up. He was drinking and driving. He broke into a store. He was whatever the story may be. Lock him up. Well, now, why do you say lock him up? Clearly, it's not doing much. And I totally agree with you. But at the end of the day, they're not on the streets. And the difference between them being on the streets and them being behind bars is that they can't hurt my family when they're behind bars. They can when they're on the streets. Now, I would love for not I want a politician to come in with a real game plan about how we can take people out of prisons and put them into rehabilitation programs to actually get them the help that they need to be productive citizens, rather than a repeat part of the system and the cycle.
Well,
that is
but
the school
you
to
know,
prison
and you're
pipeline.
right. But see that even that mess too. You know, and we're veering way off. But even that, the prison systems are messed up too, because those are contracted out a lot of civilian. I say civilian
Yeah.
ran. They're not
Private,
law enforcement
yeah.
ran. They're private ran.
Yeah.
It's for those prisons have become more of. Well, it's supposed to be, hey, you're bad, you go to jail. To now, it's a
revenue.
for profit.
It's a revenue
It's a
stream.
for profit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not for profit. That's not what I said. It's this. This is for profit organization.
I know.
And so it comes with that. When you're cutting, I'm not getting into all this nonsense because it's not
Yeah,
even
I know,
remotely
I
close
know.
to this. But it's already screwed up. There's no consequences. Well, let's look at consequences. We could say that there's no consequences for any of this crap today. You can do whatever you want. You know, as long as you don't hurt anybody for the most part. You know, unless the government funded you to be there to do it. Yeah, that happens too.
Yeah.
Well, it does, because the two subject that we've mentioned most is Black Lives Matter, just reference, but
right.
also with LGBTQ stuff, these shootings, and I believe some of that stuff. I did not say, and to be clear on this air, I am not saying that it was staged, but I will say I do believe that there's paid people there.
Oh, at these shootings?
Yep.
Yeah. Oh,
I believe that-
crisis actors.
I believe that in some of these events that maybe not even a crime scene event, I believe there's people planted in places
Yeah, to tell you what
to
to think.
to run and to move an agenda.
Yeah, like for instance, oh my gosh, I'm the news team on the ground and the Las Vegas shooting just happened. Now, if I'm the CIA or the FBI, I'm going to have a guy planted there, and I'm going to tell that news crew, oh, go talk to that guy, because you're a news crew and I'm an FBI agent. You're going to listen to me. And then you go over there and you talk to that guy, and he says, yeah, oh my gosh, I just saw a plane hit the World Trade Center. Now, I know you probably won't like that one, but those things actually happen. Basically, they for sure put people in place at a particular time to be ready to answer the question, so that way you as an individual don't have to think for
Yeah,
yourselves.
you can tell. I mean, I think you can tell to some level when somebody's been on air, because I've seen people get on air and I'm like, yeah, you could tell that was
Yeah,
a fresh
you were
interview.
trained,
like,
dude.
You
You were
were trained,
trained.
but you can also see the ones that's like, yeah, that's fresh, because they're tripping on their words.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
they don't know what to do,
or what
and-
to say. Like everything they say almost doesn't make sense.
And and the thing of it is, I've talked with, we've done an episode, it's been months ago. We tried getting people to come on here, from LGBTQ or drag queen specifically, and nobody would.
Dude, I
Now,
had
several
someone-
people reached out,
I
but
had
they were too
someone,
scared. They didn't want to talk. You know what they didn't? They wanted to have a microphone here and sit and yell and scream and piss and moan about things and not actually have a conversation. Because I'm willing to have a conversation. I'll say it again now. I'm willing to have a legitimate, just sit down conversation, because I have, I'd like to hear their perspective.
Well-
But the thing of it is, they don't want to hear mine.
I'll say, according to Facebook, that is not the case. I was told that we definitely do not advocate for LGBT rights or allowing their opinion to be heard. We just want to blast our agenda.
Well, because it's called Wits in Podcast. This ain't the freaking LGBTQ queer hour, And people oh, it's queer hour. Well, if you're gonna sit here and knock me for saying that, then get on freaking all the other network channels that's got the queer eye for the straight guy and all the other stupid spin-offs of gay stuff.
They have more
So,
chances to get
you
on somewhere than I do.
This is not the freaking LGBTQ podcast. It's called Wits In Podcast. If you look at the title down there, I'm going to say the things that I feel like I want to say. I have within my rights that I live in this country to say that. And I will tell this to all the people that don't like that comment. Don't watch it.
Yeah, keep scrolling.
Keep going, thumbing
Yeah.
up to something else
Yeah, I
that
know.
fits your agenda that you want to fit in your life. Go ahead and keep going, because I don't want your views. I don't need your views. And I say that wholeheartedly, because this podcast ain't for everybody. I say that over and over again. And there's podcasts that I think are good episodes, but hey, I'm not listening to this guy or that girl on a daily basis because I really don't care for them.
See, but I think that's kind of an important point, because I think about this literally week after week, month after month, which is do not bend the knee. And what do I mean by that? Like, I'm a hardcore Christian, and I want to be involved, like, with my church, etc. But I have to admit, if my church came to me tomorrow and said, "Hey, Devin, we don't like what you're talking about. We think it's too judgmental, or we don't think it's in line with what the church brand is," well, I would have to tell that person, kick rocks. And I hate to say that, but it's because at the end of the day, I think there's a lot of Christians in the world that need to hear these kinds of issues and hear other Christians' perspectives. Right or wrong, we could be 100% wrong on everything we're talking about. But at the end of the day, we're two Christian men that want to have these discussions, and that matters. I don't care what church wants to tell you it doesn't.
Yeah,
It
well,
does.
I would say people, actions speak louder than words. These are just words. They are what they are. I don't have a third person sitting on here. I'm not talking to them. So whenever I have a third person on here and I ridicule them and betray them and talk crap to their face and yell and scream at
Be a
them,
piece of crap.
then you can actually make the comments of how I am, because you people don't know me.
Yep.
And I'm not the least bit offended by it, because I like the hater comments.
me too.
And I say, keep them coming. Keep the haters coming, because what you're doing in social media world, I'm going to tell everybody how to make money on social media. You need the haters because they make you money.
Yeah, they do.
So
They
go
come
ahead,
back.
keep the hate coming. I'm fine with it. But what you'll see, and I think that in this podcast in general, but with these topics, some of them is, what we're saying is you've got the guy that don't ever give you opinion. We're the voice of the people that's sitting in companies tolerating this nonsense that can't say anything because they're going to lose their job. Yep. We're that guy, because you can sit here with the BLM side, you can sit here with the gay side, you can sit here from a Christian perspective or a black and white perspective or an Asian perspective, whatever. The things we're saying, most generally, more so in society, they're going to weigh and agree with more so what we're saying than the other side. I'm not going to say they're going to agree with everything, because these are very hard in your face stances, but they're going to tend to more typically agree with me than they are you. So I don't really care to a degree what your opinion is on this. What I can see is with my own eyes that God gave me, or I was born with, depending on whatever religious view you believe there, is what is happening in society with this topic is toxic, and it's causing damage to this generation, the previous generation, the generation to come, and especially right now in our little kids. It is causing toxicity in our school systems. It's even now getting into religious side in our school systems. This stuff is toxic, and it has no place. If you want to live that way, live that way. Quit making it everybody else's problem.
See, and yeah, I'm really glad that you made that point about there's a lot of guys out there who work and can't say what we're saying. What I would say is, look, I've already been fired from a couple jobs for my personal ideas about how I feel about life, and that's totally fine. At the end of the day, I knew the moment I started this thing, someone wasn't going to like it if I was working for someone else, and they were probably going to can me for it. But kind of what am I getting at here? Okay, well, if that's the case and we're going to have these kinds of conversations, then let's really have them. And one of the one that's kind of been on my heart that you can't say definitely in any kind of a corporate environment is, to me, the trans rights is the same thing as black people asking for reparations. Yeah. And what do I mean by that? It's not going to happen. And why do I say it's not going to happen? Because I feel like, in the same way as if we were to give black people reparations today, as we were to give trans people all the rights and everything that they're asking for, we won't have a country come tomorrow. And it's like, well, how can you say that? I feel confident in saying that is because we don't have the money to pay black people the reparations that they feel like they're entitled to over 200 years
Yeah, we
after
can't
the
even
fact.
keep our government open every year.
So, and now we get into the whole LGBT thing. Well, I'm not saying that we owe them money per se, but by the time you get all the restrooms put in place and the new courses adjusted to be able to meet their quality of standards and blah, 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 what you realize is there isn't a country left. We no longer have an identity because we've given it away to all these minorities that are griping about the problem.
Yeah. Well, you got when you say that you're taking away, adding to all these other things, you got to look at this too, because it's my issue with it. And again, I'm kind of going back. I'm saying the same thing over again. The struggle in the beginning here is writing two groups of this. I believe one of the biggest problems when it comes to LGBTQ rights is Christians in America. I believe they're using God's word incorrectly. I don't think that they're advocating Christianity in the right light and how they're approaching these things. And I know there's a lot of people that have different opinions on how you should or shouldn't approach things, but whenever you're casting condemnation to try to prove a point, I don't know that that's the best way to try to get anybody's attention, to get them to be more on your side. My bigger issue with this whole topic is, but I've already said it, is I should not have to cater to your issue.
Yep.
I shouldn't have to make life-altering changes to cater to you. Now, if that is to be true, and I have to do that, which we are, it should be the same way, and it's not. It's very lopsided. That is my bigger issue with this. It's not that I have a problem with somebody being gay. It's not that I have a problem that you dress like a girl. It has nothing to do with that. The issue is I don't have to accept it. I don't want to accept it, and I'm sick of people telling me that I have to accept it. And it's flirting with a line right now that if you don't accept it, you will be criminally charged for it. That day's coming if this stuff don't get stopped.
Yep.
I also have a lot of women involved in my life because I have young girls. Okay? Some man needs to start standing up for this. Yeah, I may be a voice for 3 or 4, but it's also the generations to come. Somebody has stop this nonsense and let it be freedom of speech. Let it be. Say what you want. Let it be. You can't even do that because it's bullying. Why? I didn't bully you. Go back. You're picking on me because I'm calling you gay. Well, maybe you should go back a little bit and figure out who bullied you to be gay. That's not the case for everybody. I understand that. But there is that group, or vice versa. Who bullied you to commit suicide? Who bullied you to act a certain way? There's a core issue here. Quit making your freaking problems mine.
See, and here's what pisses me off. At the end of the day, you know what? You know what kind of reparations Black America needs, or the kind of rights that trans people needs, or the kind of equality that white people feel that they should have in America. And that is, in my opinion, if the government wanted to stop racism and homosexuality or homophobia or poverty in general, what they would do is stop funding kids to take out a $250,000 loan and go to college, and they would give these kids a $10,000 small business loan to go out there and start their own business. Yeah. And I think if America did that, you would see Black people quit complaining about reparations. You would see LGBT people not feel like they're being targeted by cis white males. And you would also see the cis white males and white women.
See, you're doing it right now. You got to say cis, A gender, B gender.
Because it's funny to me.
It's stupid. It's, I can't dare say the word retarded, and keep it in context. But, if you get but you see there, I know I just thought of that. I would say, you say retarded. You can't even say that on the air now, because when you say retarded in reference of a
group of people.
Well, here's another word that, 10 years ago, that's gay. It had nothing to do with a person. Gay, It was just a statement. It was the Urban Dictionary of this is dumb. This is stupid. This is not, not worth entertaining or whatever,
No, that's spot on.
But you can't even use that reference anymore. Dude, because social media, will... You look at things in society.
How would you use it in a sentence? How about that?
Well, I mean, I already did. I mean, I just gave you an example. I didn't give you like a specific example, but
that movie was so gay.
Yeah, I mean, it was just it's another word for stupid. It was worthless. It was dumb, and you can't. But again, you say those things, and it's like it's a hate crime anymore. And that's where we're at. And you get blasted for it. I don't care, because this whole freaking topic's just that.
Yeah, well,
but
it's gay.
I mean, it is in both aspects. It's stupid that we even have to, even have these discussions in society that we live in. And I do understand that. I totally understand for people listening to what level I can comprehend. I don't fully grasp it, but I do understand to some level that people that were gay are frowned upon, and that you were looked down upon. That's not where that's at today. I do think that still happens. I think there's family members that can't accept that, and they outcast them, and all these horrific things that come with it. I do think that those things still happen, but it's not what it was. And I don't really know that in today's society, when we're talking about LGBTQ or gay, subject matter, that's not really the topic matter. The topic matter that always comes to hand when you start talking about gay things is drag queens.
And kids.
Those two things are the most prominent ones that come into play. So maybe if we looked back and say, nobody has a problem with being gay, it's the fact that you're pushing this crap on our kids and you're sitting here making a borderline, to say the least, spectacle of a strip show and think it's okay for people. It's not. That stuff, again, I'm not telling you not to do it, because what my opinion is, no, it shouldn't happen at all. But we do, in the country we live in, it's legal. Just do it behind closed doors. You can make your money off, paid to come in, or, door cover charges, all that other stuff, and quit targeting children. I don't care what the LGBTQ community says about this. I'm going to quote it again. You are targeting children. You're borderline pedophiles. That one is going to get in trouble. I guarantee it. But when you're targeting the kids, you've made it obvious. You can't hide this agenda anymore, because they've made it where they're trying to get into school. We have to have drag queen story hour. Why? Why do you have to read to kids? But see, nobody wants to come on air and talk, we want to make them feel comfortable. You don't need to make them feel comfortable, because it ain't your dang job. It's their parents. It ain't their job. It's their parents' job to do that stuff, not yours.
But is this not okay? I'm going to show you a picture and tell me if you think this is maybe why people in this community are facing so much backlash. So there's a super viral video of a family where dad snaps. Okay, he's already, who knows how long he's been in this vehicle, driving to take his kids to the one and only Disney World in Orlando. I mean, that's what you do over the summer. And
was he going to Disney or the underground part of Disney?
Well, let's hope the regular world of Disney. Okay,
just
not
to be
the
clear,
dark
so we
side.
understand context.
But now I'm assuming that the LGBT people just came out of the dark side. No, I'm just kidding. Anyhow, long story short, they have these Free Palestine protesters that are blocking the way to be able to get into Disneyland. And this dad has a meltdown. And I took a little screenshot of it because the video was just a little bit too long to be able to really give good context.
Sure the video, the screenshot does much better, but
it's always something. Oh.
Yeah, that was probably not it.
How many minutes? There it is. So look at that. Poor dad had to get out of his Kia, for crying out loud. And, you really can't see it because that's a little bit blurry, but I'm telling you, he was furious.
Well, there's ways to so what were these people doing?
So the point of it, Free Palestine, Gays for Palestine type movement. But the point of it being, he said a very powerful statement in the video. He said, I have no problem with your sexuality and how you want to live, but what you're doing right now does not benefit your cause one bit. Mm-hmm. And this is making people go against your cause.
So I can tell you how to solve this problem. Here's what you do. And people will know this reference, and it's just a joke, so I'm going to state it right off the bat. But here's how you solve this. Somewhere down in Disneyland, they've got alligators that eat kids. Proven. It's happened.
It has. Once or twice.
So maybe they need to go on a walk together.
Right, yeah. Let me show you
I
around.
didn't say... I'm just saying.
Oh man, that's horrible. But no, the point of it being here is because I think he had a very valid point, and this is kind of why I brought this topic up in general, which is we're sick of it. Like, just regular straight people are so tired of Gays for Palestine.
Well, again, it's targeting
the highway.
It's targeting kids. Where's this at?
Yeah, Disney World.
Yeah, targeting kids.
Oh, what a coincidence!
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Most generally. I'm not saying adults don't go there, but I'd say most generally it's families. See that they're see now that's the second part, targeting kids, but you're targeting families.
See, and that's my thing. Like, I'm not a radical, but if I was a radical, what I would ask myself is, okay, I need to reach new audiences. I need to try and convert people over to our movement. I cannot imagine pitching the idea of, hey, let's stop traffic to Disney World, where families are going on vacation that dad and mom has worked their tails off all year for, and we're going to convert those people into fighting for our
Well,
cause.
look,
Who's ever been in a traffic stop for 2 hours because of a protester stopping
in the middle
traffic?
of the road? Not in
And then-
Oklahoma because you can
and
run
then-
over them.
And then you were like, hey, you know what? They were making a really good point. I think I'm going to turn around from Disney World and I'm going to give
not
all my
me.
money to Palestine.
No.
You don't do that. That's the point.
And so let's look at this from a Christian perspective. What better way for Satan to get in? And for people that's not Christian, you don't believe this, fine, don't listen. From a Christian perspective, what's the best way to cause division? It is kids. You can implant these, bad things. And I'm just saying this, but in general,
Yeah.
and in families, that's the target. Because what you look at it from let's look at it from the opposite perspective, so people can understand what's the biggest. God designed, men, women. Family. That's a core. I believe God likes families, and so it would be a natural response for Satan to attack that stuff with all this nonsense, and then they've done it. And so you decipher, is that satanic? I didn't say that, but call it what you want.
So okay,
The shoe fits.
If I'm Satan and maybe we'll exchange Satan out for Lady Justice, do you maybe feel like this picture is pretty accurate of what women are truly up against? Look at that. Look at those poor defenseless gals up top.
I don't know who the world that is. What group is that? It's like off the View.
Yeah,
The View's probably worse than that.
That's actually called The Neighborhood, and that's where most women live. But then down there we got how about that? Natural women versus built by men for men.
I don't know.
It's
It's a mess.
insanity. Okay, the point of it being here, what's this picture truly represent? At the end of the day, we're talking about the scales of justice here, and who's going to prevail? Natural-born women or the trans women?
They're natural born
And-
women too, apparently.
But they're not, and we all know that, and that's why we have.
No,
this
we
show.
don't all know that.
Well,
There's a lot of people out there that hasn't been convinced of that yet.
That's why you need Satan to not be Lady Justice, because at the end of the day, what I'm hoping is that truth prevails and that women, biological women, will wake up and say, you know what, we should actually be supporting us rather than biological males who have already dominated us for all of humanity. But I digress. The point of it being here is just like, look, people, if you're that blind and if you're that dumb, yeah, you're forever going to face endless opposition to the feminist movement.
It's going to change. People's already seeing that. The generation, and this generation too, to give them benefit of the doubt on some stuff, they're getting sick of stuff too. And they're just kind of like, this is.
Do you see this
dumb.
this picture I posted on social media? It was so good. I could not stop laughing.
Yeah.
Lesbian
know,
dating apps, trans women.
Yeah.
That's funny, dude. Come on. And to me, this like perfectly epitomizes how biological males will trample all over women's spaces, including lesbian dating apps.
I don't. There's a lot of aspects of this stuff. I mean, I could go on and on and on about this type of stuff.
Like,
so.
here's tranny.
Yeah. That's an old. Most people ain't gonna.
Yeah, come on, dude. That would be hilarious. I would die if they made like an AI recreation of that. But point of it being,
Somebody might.
Oh man, I would do a lot. I would do a lot for that video. Yeah. But the point of it being here is just like that. That's how I don't understand. Like, look, I do everything I possibly can. I'm happily married for coming up on 6 years and a couple months. And I got to admit, like, dude, guys are dogs, okay? And so, like, how women could possibly give us the benefit of the doubt to go into a locker room or a bathroom or anywhere else where it's women's only and they potentially could be getting naked. How you trust biological males, I'll never understand. And I say that as a biological male who loves and respects women.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think all guys are like that, but again,
that's
opinion.
why you don't go into their bathroom.
My opinion. Well, I mean,
yeah, because
I
you
could
know
see
that you are like that.
I could see it. It's an issue. You know, I mean, I don't think that all guys are like that. That's the only thing I'd say to it. Do I agree with the bathrooms? No, I don't. I wouldn't have it, you know, because you got the pedophile side.
That's what I'm
And
saying.
well, you can even exclude the pedophiles. You can put just the straight
the
straight
straightest dude
guy
on earth.
in the world, and he's gonna like going
Yeah.
and using those
Yeah.
bathrooms. It's not okay. Let's face this. Here's the way it was in the military. You know, in some aspects, not every one of them, but here's 10 toilets on this side, 10-foot gap, 10 toilets on this side. There's no walls, nothing. You pee and poop right beside. Really, okay, ladies, you really think you want equality?
Yeah,
You really? Are you just gonna
Take
pop
a
a?
dump
Are you just
across
gonna
from
pop
me.
a squat right there? There's a reason why they're separate.
Yeah.
You know,
Or how
and the
about-
fact of the matter is, you know, it's just here's another just stupid but a real example for most generally. A guy farts, whatever, ain't no big deal.
I know.
A girl is a total
Yeah.
different thing.
Yep. I
You
deal
know,
with
we
it
know
every
they
night.
do.
Yeah.
But you know, I know it's funny, but it is, but it all plays into this.
Yeah.
You know, like oh, they heard me. You know, like it's just it's different. You know, like
Dude, my wife hates it
So-
when I fart.
you know, so guys are kind of whatever. You
Yeah,
know, it's
I know,
almost like
yeah.
a bragging point to some degree.
It's funny. Like you
Um,
think about the fart and then you laugh out loud.
So there's differences, you know, and you just got to accept that, you know. But anyway, they're not, you know, we're out there in those
How about-
situations. They're not popping a squat by you and just, you know, doing their thing, wipe your butt and go on your way. It's just what it is.
I
And if
hear
you
it.
did that, there is in this generation, not generation, this society, there's probably somebody that's gonna like looking at that too.
See,
you know,
here's
so
here's what
it doesn't
comes to
work.
my mind. You wake up now. You're talking to a guy who wasn't in the military, so I might expose myself here. But all right, as a dude, you wake up first thing in the morning. You're like, I'm gonna go take a shower, and then you get that good old morning wood. Look, in a shower full of dudes, you can kind of get away with that because like you're all just showering, doing your thing.
You're not getting
whatever,
away with
whatever.
it in the military.
You're not.
It's not gonna happen.
Yeah, I know. Don't get me wrong. I
know.
know. I was hoping that you wouldn't call me out on that because you would definitely get made fun of. Like, whoa, who's happy to see
Yeah,
me?
but the thing of it
But
is,
it's that much more worse than if I'm a biological male and in the women's.
I think
room
it's how you
in the
handle
morning.
yourself. I think there's a big joking point. There's a lot of things that would come with that.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, you look at it, you know, from a military aspect, you know, whenever I was, you know, before I got promoted enough, where I kind of had my own room, basically, you know, you're living with 2 or 3 other guys. You know, again, equality. Are you going to have, okay, let this guy, you know, okay, hey, you know, PFC, whatever, the female, you're going to live with this guy. And you have, so here's the deal. You have equality. Everybody's got to be the same, and we're all the same. So you put one guy in there with 2 girls, and that's their room. They're in the same squad. They're in the same platoon. They're in the same battalion,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
And they're living with each other. Nope.
Yeah,
That doesn't happen. And there's a reason why it doesn't happen. So don't sit here and tell me we're all equal. We need to be. No, they're
Yeah.
keeping you away for a
For a
reason.
reason,
Yeah,
dude.
it is
Yeah.
no different than a freaking dog that comes in heat. You don't put a male in there with unless you're going to have, you know, you're trying to have
Dude,
puppies. You keep them separated for a reason.
I took so my mother-in-law's dog is in heat, and I've got a nice young Australian Shepherd male who has not been fixed, and I don't want to fix him. But I'm not kidding you, Dad. I could, like, it didn't matter like how many times I put my foot out in front, he would not stop trying to hump this dog.
Yeah, it's like a
And
freaking.
it's insane. I'm like, oh, you have to actually kick him. Like, you have to physically remove the dog off of her, otherwise he won't stop. And so it's like the point of it being is, I can't say I've been to that point in my sexual career where I literally could not stop. But that's why you separate men from women at the end of the day. That's why you're having
Well, there's
women get
lines to be
pregnant
drawn, and that's the
and
point.
in
You know,
prison.
like it's not all equal and all, you know,
We're
all
animals,
funny,
dude.
you know, whatever. At the end of the day, these are facts. So
Yeah, I don't know. It's just that to me, it's just, you know, when you get into topics like that, it cracks me up because I'm like, you don't understand men as it is because you're attracted to them, whatever, and like you're just not trying to understand us in that way. But you're somehow going to give up your rights as a biological
Well-
female to let this dude shower with you just so he feels comfortable. He's more than comfortable being in that shower with you. He wants to be there. And that's the point. Like, I there's just no way you're going to convince me otherwise. Why does he want to be there? Could be another conversation. Does he want to be there because he's sexually attracted to you, or because he feels like he's sexually in the same body as you.
Yeah, let me give you another take on this, and we can wrap this up. Okay, married for 20 years. My wife passed away, so people don't understand that, but I want to get the gist of this. Okay, as a grown man, even as a young man, I have never in my life been able to figure out women.
Yeah, no, I never will.
Okay, so here, and generally, I want people to listen to this. Generally, most guys would say the same thing. They're just like, I don't understand women. I don't even try it. I don't, whatever. But yet, you've got a guy that's trying to become a woman, and you want me to understand that?
No, we don't understand him either. For
Well,
wanting
it
that.
complicates situations. Because I don't even understand women to begin with.
Yeah, let alone you trying
And
to
now
be
you're
one.
trying to be one.
Oh, man.
That situation went from down here to way up here. You're in a league of your own. I don't understand.
And why?
But here's what I'm trying to say with it. That's why I believe that person is very, very confused. That guy is now trying to be something that no man under the face of this earth since Adam and Eve has been able to figure out. And he's trying to become that? See the problem?
I do, yeah.
Generally, the vast majority, weighing heavily to the 100% mark, most men would agree with what I just said.
How
Look,
can
it's perspective. It's how you view it.
I would say any man that tries saying that they do understand women, and
It's a freaking liar.
the biggest one on earth. And
I think there's things you can understand about your spouse or your girlfriend, whatever. I think there's things you can understand.
yep.
But generally,
Aspects.
I don't get it.
aspects. You can't understand them. Because you're too logical, too reasonable.
And I think it's vice versa. I think it's vice versa too. But
Yeah,
see the point. You start breaking these things down with a little bit of common sense. You have to look at the bigger picture. And bigger picture is, man, there's been. I mean, this is not. It is a joke, but it's a fact that most guys be like, I don't understand my wife. I don't understand her. Like, I don't understand why she has mood swings. I don't understand. Whatever it may be.
Oh, what's up?
And so. But then you have this guy that's going to transition it. Man, I'm telling you, you're confused, man.
Yeah,
Like
beyond.
you've got this mystery figured out that nobody has ever figured out.
And
I don't think that's the case.
That's what made him gay.
So, like,
I'm kidding.
so you look at this and again, I know it's a joke, but it is true. That's a true statement more than it is a joke.
Which is another one
But-
for me. I'm like, wait, hold on. You're gonna chop off your junk
Yeah, that
and
sounds
still-
logical.
and still like women.
Yeah.
Dude, just like women already. Like, put some freaking paper towels in your.
I don't understand.
Push-up
You
bra. I
start
don't
talking
know,
about
man.
mental
It's
health
insane.
issues, and again, that's the way I look at it. That's why I think some of the people transitioning, I think it's a mental health. There is nothing normal for a guy to say, you know what? I think at the end of the day, I'm going to go get castrated.
Yeah.
I think I want to cut my penis off. Man, you messed up.
To be a woman.
Like,
Of all things, to be a woman.
yeah, I just
Ask
don't
women
get it.
if it's cool to be a woman.
Yeah, I don't see very many women stepping in line saying, hey, you know what? I want to grow a penis.
Yeah. Well,
Like,
the ones that do look like they could have grown one to begin with.
well, maybe, but it's just,
I'm
it's
kidding, I'm
something's not firing on all cylinders up there to start, like, oh, I've wrote right-handed my whole life, but I'm going to cut my right hand off, so I have to write my left hand.
Yeah. It's
It just doesn't make sense. You're going to be like, you're going to cut your hand off? You're stupid. Like, what is wrong with you? And that's kind of, I hate to say it, especially, I'm looking at like, you want to cut your penis off? You want to cut your ball? Like, what is wrong with you?
yeah. I know.
I don't get it.
So much is wrong with it that we could go on and on. But the point of it being,
Well, let's
is,
go on and on with it, and then we'll wrap this up. It's like, oh, we can't make that decision for ourselves as adults. Let's make that decision for our kids.
No, we're gonna let the kids make
Yeah,
that decision for
we
themselves.
can let the kids do it too.
Yeah, they can't smoke, they can't drink,
But-
they can't join the military or get tattoos.
But hey, in today's society, we're not targeting kids, right? Because that's what the agenda
yeah,
they keep
no,
saying.
not at all. The
But
kids are
yet you
making
look
that
at the
choice
laws.
themselves.
You look at the laws, and it's like, oh, the kids this. The kids need to be able to express themselves. The kids need to be able to castrate themselves. The kids need these little. Oh, here's what we'll do. We'll hide your kid for a couple of days, and we don't have to tell you. Oh, that's a law in some places. We don't
Yeah.
have to tell you where your kid's at because you're not giving them the gender affirming care. No, people, you're messed up.
Look, at the end of the day, any other adult that wants to support not telling parents about what their kid is doing is wrong. I honestly don't care if that kid is getting abused or not. And why do I say that? Because at the end of the day, you're putting that kid in more risk than whatever good you can possibly do.
Well, if the kid's getting abused, that's a whole different situation. It doesn't mean you hide them. It means you go to the proper authorities and you let them deal with the abuse side. That doesn't mean you freaking hide them out.
That's what I'm saying.
You obviously, in that situation, you don't want them to go home, but you immediately notify the proper people and let, hopefully, justice run its course.
But the problem of it is that they love to use examples like that. Like, did you ever see Gavin Newsom's?
I know all the examples.
Advertisement.
They use, poor pity me. I got beat up. I turned gay, and all of that crap.
This was insane. So Gavin Newsom literally makes an ad of two girls that are in a vehicle trying to cross state lines. I think they're trying to leave Alabama, and right as they cross the border, cop lights up his sirens, pulls them over. Doesn't ask, hey, I need license and registration. Immediately pulls out his pregnancy test and says, ma'am, I'm going to need you to take a pregnancy test. And it's like, okay, and what kind of world do we think that's what the cop is going to pull you over for? You looked pregnant while driving. I wonder if she's getting an abortion. Let's pull her over and have her take a pregnancy test. And even if she was pregnant, what are you going to do about it? How do you know she's driving across the state to go and get an abortion? But the point of it, it's fear porn. And that's exactly what the LGBT community is up against. They're up against fear porn, which is, white cisgendered men want to take your rights away, and they don't want you to exist. And they're trying to exterminate your right to have butt sex. And it's just the furthest from the truth. No one cares. But the problem of it is you start making people care the moment you stop letting them go to Disney World. The moment you stop college campuses from conducting finals week because you have an agenda of your own that you want to push because you already knew you weren't going to graduate college. Yeah. So instead of just flunking like everyone else has done before you, you decide to make a scene to try and get out of flunking your classes. Now, I digress there, but that's my take on 90% of any college kid that was attending those protests. They were probably going to fail anyways.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Well, there you have it.
Fun times. Living in America. But either way, I'm super curious to I know, I'm not coked up. That's the problem. Either way, if you know the reference, you know. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening. I'm super curious to know what people have to say about this topic in general because it seems so polarizing when it really doesn't have to be. But either way, drop a comment. Please subscribe to the show. We are so close to hitting 1,000 subscribers. It's insane. I keep wanting to go to social media to beg people for it, but I just can't bring myself to do it.
And I'm the one telling you not to.
But either way, thank you all so much. Please hit that smash the like button, smash the subscribe button. We need the help. But either way, thank y'all. Have a great day.